Hello everyone, and welcome to my course on Composition Fundamentals. This course is designed to give you a complete understanding of some high-level compositional practices from a ground-up perspective that are going to help you in your own way of composing for nearly each and every genre. It is one of the most comprehensive courses on beginning to compose and will challenge you to become a better composer. I've taken my experience of composing from both the commercial and concert world and extracted what I think are the most important elements on how to start a piece. These techniques will help you begin your composition and, most importantly, develop your ideas and finish your piece with awesome results. These techniques offered in this course are designed to apply to most genres and forms of music. And although the course covers a vast array of styles, it simply isn't possible to have all genres present in the course. But don't worry, the techniques will still be applicable. While this course is mostly aimed at completely new composers, it does not cover music basics, like what are notes, rhythms, chords, intervals, scales, and harmony. An underlying knowledge of these musical elements are recommended before starting this course. If you are unsure whether or not you have these skills, check out the quick prerequisite test to see if you can pass. If you ended up having some trouble with that, maybe this course isn't quite for you. But don't worry, my Music Essentials course is available and can help you get ready for the composition fundamentals so that you can start writing your own music. If you are fairly confident with some basic music theory, then let's get started. By the end of this course, you should have the skills to be able to create your own melody, expand that melody by motivic transformation and development, incorporate harmonic accompaniment and rhythmic variety, and finally, combining all those aspects by completing your own short piece of music. Remember, a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. So with all that being said, and you feel like you're ready to start the process of becoming a better composer, let's begin. One of the hardest things for a composer that is usually overlooked when starting a brand new piece of music is what elements or instruments are going to be included in the composition. With technology advancing further and further each year, it is now possible to use almost any instrument or combination of sounds in our pieces with software called digital audio workstations, or DAWs for short. With this overwhelming ability to choose whatever musical palette we want, how can any correct decision be made? To answer that question, we have to ask ourselves 4 more clarifying questions. Question 1, what is the purpose? Number 2, what is the genre? Number 3, what is an appropriate ensemble? And number 4, what am I writing this on? Music, like any art, has purpose because it was consciously created. Anything created was done with foresight and intent, and whatever actions the artist took to create the piece of art had purpose behind the intent. Whenever starting a new piece of music, I ask myself, what the exact purpose of the piece is. Is it a paid commission? Is it for a commercial project? Is it for educating myself or maybe someone else? Or is it simply just for fun? Commissioned music usually takes place by a performance organization or an individual benefactor or grant. For example, the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra has been known to commission pieces. As well, the Canada Council for the Arts is also a commissioner of music. These types of pieces will usually already come with requests of what the commissioner is looking for, either highlighting an individual instrument or perhaps highlighting a historical or recent event. In these cases, your compositional approaches will be informed by their requirements and the performers available. Commercial works don't necessarily limit the piece to the 30-second advertisements you see on TV, but encompass an entire range of paid visual media, including film, trailers, TV, video games, music libraries, and other interactive media. Each one of these subcategories will also determine how you start your compositional approach. For instance, films and documentaries often, but not always, lean towards using authentic sounding instruments, while video games often incorporate synth-based instruments in their music.
In the south of the Korean mainland.
There are also limiting factors for commercial music that are not as readily available as commissioned music. For example, you probably wouldn't write a concerto-style piece basing your composition around a protégé soloist. Commercial pieces also often have tight deadlines, limiting the amount of time you can spend arranging multiple parts or complex counterpoint. String writing might have to be done on a single string pad instead of a more traditional approach of a 5-part string section. This music is often going to be synchronized to visuals, meaning your choices for composition will be heavily influenced by another source. In some ways, this is easier than a commissioned piece in the fact that you do not have to worry about figuring out the path of your music.
5 more seconds.
I only need 3, 2, 1, 1.
Educational, also called pedagogical works, are used to help learn a concept, either performance-based or theory-based. These pieces are usually pretty short and written for only one instrument, helping develop a single concept at a time. Chopin's Etudes are a fantastic example of high-level compositions for the piano that help develop a single performance technique. If you choose to write a piece like this, it will be very helpful to know the instrument for which you are writing very well. There are certain quirks about each instrument that can be learned from reading about them, but better learned by actually playing the instrument. For example, the clarinet break, occurring between the B-flat and B, are often very difficult to play smoothly across and require years of practice. Writing music for fun is arguably the most enjoyable way of doing it, but it can also be the most frustrating. When the limits of what to compose are created entirely from yourself, it can be difficult to make initial decisions, get started, and ultimately successfully finish the piece. It might be beneficial to try and imagine an event for which this music could have purpose for. A birthday party?
Happy birthday to you.
A wedding song? An anniversary present? A future concert? Implementing these restrictions will help narrow in the amount and type of instruments you will use, and definitely narrow in your creative focus on what to compose. If you were able to successfully assign a purpose to your composition, the next step is to try and assign it a genre. This step might be taken care of for you by your commissioner, director on your project, or the solo performer you were writing for. But if not, you will need to decide where your piece belongs. Hopefully the concept of a genre isn't new to you, but in case it is, a genre of music can be defined as a style or category of the music. It also applies to art and literature. Jazz fusion is one such example of a genre, as well as dubstep or funk. Each genre of music has its own identifying features, the combination of which are unique to that genre. For example, one of the most prominent identifying features of drum and bass music is its kick and snare pattern. Although drum and bass music shares a lot of similar attributes to other electronic music, the kick drum on beat 1 and the and of 3, as well as a constant snare drum on beat 2 and 4, is one of its most identifiable features. There are often subgenres within each genre as well. Drum and bass has over 10 different subgenres, including drum step, dark step, tech step, and jump up. Staying true to a specific genre doesn't always have to happen. You are allowed to mix and match whatever genres you choose. I once had a piece of music where the producer asked me to mix genres of an orchestral music in the style of the Harry Potter films with 50s style Frank Sinatra music. Needless to say, it was tricky, but produced a very unique result. Ensemble is the fancy word for a group of musicians and their instruments. Picking the right ensemble for your piece will most often be based on the input from the previous criteria. Sometimes the purpose and genre of music will only work with one type of ensemble. For example, if you were tasked with writing music for a 1960s Motown jazz club, you're probably not going to use an ensemble of Ukrainian ukuleles. Learning what a typical ensemble for each broad genre is important. This graph helps depict some traditional ensembles associated with some genres. It is not an inclusive list. There are many, many more possibilities and various versions of each one. So make sure you do appropriate research if authenticity is your goal. And finally, the last criteria you will need to determine before you start composing is what medium are you going to be writing this project in? That is to say, are you going to compose on the traditional method of paper, manuscript, or pencil? Or are you going to start digitally on a digital manuscript or piano roll? Paper and pen method has largely been replaced with digital methods, but some composers still choose to begin their sketches on paper and pen. Songwriters often compose their pieces on paper and pen, using lyrics and chord markings to start writing their pieces. Digital scores, including Sibelius and Finale, have largely replaced the pen and paper method and allow composers to write quicker and edit easier. Inserting bars in the middle of previously written music or deciding to scrap 32 measures of 16th notes is dramatically quicker than using an eraser. Digital audio workstations, or DAWs for short, have largely become the most popular method of composing in this digital age. Popular ones like Logic, Pro Tools, and Cubase have excellent methods of composing using MIDI and sample libraries or instrument plugins to get realistic sounding instruments on only your keyboard. A combination of digital scores and DAWs are my compositional approach of choice, but everyone's will be different. Now let's quickly look at some ways session setup might look like in each medium in Section 2.